maybe you don't know how valuable are for us what you are doing and what you could do here. Recently, Jack O'Connor, I wrote the name to be incorrect, quoting, General President of SIP2 and President of Irish Congress of Trade Unions, in a close meeting with us, said that he mentioned that the Cubans sometimes didn't realize how much they done in their fights for other countries, directly or indirectly, in Latin America, in Africa, and he mentioned that even, his words, even for us here, what they done when they fight in Bay of Pigs or in other situations. But now, I could say that there are situations important for us in which you could help in a way you can't imagine. Just being here tonight, being honest, receiving correct information about some things, for us is a great help. I'm going to give you two examples. Maybe some of you heard about it, maybe the majority of you never heard about it. Did you know a gentleman, no, it's not a gentleman, a guy called Luis Posada Carriles? Some of you heard, the majority maybe not. That's the world in which we live in. Luis Posada Carriles is a Cuban who studied in the United States before the revolution, left Cuba very early after the revolution. He was recruited by the CIA, and then he developed a long career with the CIA. But in that career, he was responsible, direct responsible, for the bombing of a Cubana airplane flying over the Barbados shore in the Caribbean, and of course killing the 73 people that were on that plane, including the complete Cuban national fence team that just some weeks ago won all the gold medals in the Central American Games. He put 2 bombs on that plane. The plane exploded. 73 people were killed. I read a lot about Lockerbie playing and other things, but in this world in which we live in, because it's a plane from Cuba, almost nobody knew about it. The guy, Luis Posada Carriles, was connected to Bay of Pigs in a very specific way. Inside the brigade that was prepared by the CIA and the US Army to invade Cuba, he was in a secret mission called Operation 40. I don't know why they call it Operation 40. Their mission was to enter always after the US Army, because the real purpose of Bay of Pigs was to occupy a piece of Cuban territory. The provisional government quoted that they had in a US military base in Florida will arrive, and then they proclaim we are a new government, and they will ask for Organization of American States intervention. That's mean US Army. That's a real operation. That's why it was so important that Fidel Castro realized very soon that we can't let them take control of any portion of the land, because they were going to do that. But in the original plan, this gentleman, Luis Posada Carriles, will enter after the US Army, and after the US Army will occupy a lot of territories and provinces and cities in Cuba, and they will have a list, town by town, city by city, of the people that must be assassinated because they are revolutionary, loyals, communists, trade union leaders, etc. In this city they enter, who is in the list, blah, 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 kill, 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 and that's their mission in Bay of Pigs operation. That's his mission. Not only on him. After that, he was sent to Venezuela. He tortured and killed a lot of revolutionaries in Venezuela in the 60s. Later, he put the bombs in the Cuban plane he was jailed because it was a huge scandal in Venezuela, because maybe in the rest of the world nobody knew about it. And he was in jail, but then he escaped. He didn't escape. Some guys from Miami bribes the guards from the jail, and he escaped. And you know to which place did he go? He go as the head of logistics and technical director of the Iran-Contra operation in Central America. Do you remember when the Contras in Nicaragua and the Congress forbid to support legally those guys, and then they send weapons to Iran for money, for financing that? Well, Posada Garres was at the heart of that secret, scandalous operation, technically as an officer of the CIA. After that, he remained in Central America. And in the 90s, when Cuba started to develop a tourist industry, because Cuba needed, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, looking for new ways of income, then he mastermind and direct in a very, very personal way an operation that was, there was no name, but because it's a completely mercenary operation. They recruit very poor people in Central American countries, Guatemala, El Salvador. They pay $5,000 each of them for every bomb they will be able to explode inside Cuba hotels, in Havana, in Varadero, in tourist resorts. And this is very important because these people are mercenaries. They don't fight, never. They fight for a conviction. That when someone has a conviction, it could be right or wrong, but at least it's a conviction. If they don't collect money, they don't do anything during his lifetime. Then they start to send mercenaries, poor people for Central America, to Cuba to put bombs inside the hotels. A bomb exploded in Copacabana Hotel, in Nacional Hotel, in the Bodeguita del Medio, in Capri Hotel. All of them exploded. Others didn't explode, were detected before they exploded. An Italian citizen, a tourist, died because of the bombs. One of the bombs, for example, was put, the system was very, very evil because they have, it's a C4 explosive with plastics, and they have a detonation mechanism who you could regulate for until 99 hours before you put it. You put the bomb here, you activate the mechanism, you leave the country, and the bomb will explode after you leave the country. In some of the cases, they put that kind of bomb, that type of bomb, in a hotel in a neighborhood in Havana, and 5 Spanish children were playing with the bomb because the bomb was in an envelope. They were waiting for a bus for a tour, and 5 Spanish children were playing with the bomb. The bomb fell because the bomb never detonated by impact, just by the mechanism, no? And that's why the bomb was discovered, and the 5 children from Spain saved their lives. Well, this gentleman, after all that and a lot of more things, entered, at least in the United States, he entered many times, but legally entered in a boat, and was arrested by the US authorities because he's an illegal immigrant. Not because he's a terrorist, because he's a legal immigrant. And in the recent weeks, there was a trial in El Paso, Texas, for he was accused of charges of lying, of how he entered the United States. This must be you must think, well, that's a joke. A guy who done all that things, how can be judged, prosecuted as a liar? Well, he was prosecuted as a liar. But he was, last week, he was acquitted, even as a liar. Because at the beginning of the trial, his lawyer, in the initial statement, said, if my client will be forced to declare in that trial, we will be forced to talk a lot of things about the missions he implemented during his lifetime for the U.S. government, and we don't want to do that. That's a kind of blackmail, if you could see it that way. This gentleman is free. He's in Miami. He received a welcoming committee from some people in Miami, not everybody. Not all the Cuban Americans in Miami think the same way and support this kind of terrorist. He's a real terrorist, and he is free. All his life he had been a mastermind, never a guy who direct two things, not a fighter, just a mastermind. He's free in Miami, and it's a real danger. It's a real terrorist, and living free in the United States. That's one issue in which only with your knowledge, only sending telegrams, supporting any way that you decide how, it will be a great help for Cuba, that the world will know the truth, why we need to defend ourselves against what and against who. Because sometimes what you read about Cuba is not about those things, it's about other kind of things. That's a big help, that if people like you have the decency, the honesty, and the motivation to be in this room one night in this town, where deprived of the visits of their wives to the jail, two of them. So, if the U.S. attorney, in one of many phases legally of this long process, said in court, in a federal appeal court in Atlanta, there is a lot of misunderstanding in the world about this case. We proudly feel that this is the work of you, because American embassies received the letters, received the message, the U.S. Department of Justice received things, and when the U.S. attorney, that happened in a U.S. District Appeal Court in Atlanta, said, there is a lot of misunderstanding in the world about this case, and we need to clarify that. That means that the U.S. government feel international pressure, and it's a factor in the way they decide, because in that cases, people were never being prosecuted. They were expelled of the country because they are not nationals of the country. They're expelled. They never went to trial. This is another abnormality in this case. And here are two examples of how people like you, so decent, so honest, that spend a night of your lifetime talking with us, are so valuable for us. Just that you know the truth, know what really happened, and we're able to in a way you prefer, to help to get justice for these two examples, is a great support that we receive from us. And that's why I want to thank you again for being here tonight and explain you why we appreciate so much your presence here.